just to get over it. Fix a drink, watch some shit. It's a new day coming tomorrow. You've been over and over this, more than just a little bit.
Okay, welcome back to the Ropeadope Room 21 Soul. I'm your host, Louis Marks. We're here for a video and audio presentation, and I have a special guest with me via technological means, Cole DeGenova. Welcome.
Hey, Louis.
How are you?
Good. Staying healthy.
Are you
Good?
I'm going to switch this up. I'm having a little camera difficulty today, so we're just going to have to stay in the zone right here. You are in Chicago?
Yes.
And have you had a lot of time to create?
You know, in the first couple of weeks, I was doing a lot of recording at home, just like a bunch of songs that I had written over the last few months. And I was like, oh, now's my time to dig in and start fleshing this out. But then after like the first 2 or 3 weeks, it kind of, I don't know, it's been going in waves.
Did you feel pressure to like, okay, I'm quarantined. I need to be productive and creative?
I think
a lot of people.
It wasn't really like pressure. I was legitimately excited. Like, oh, I have so much time. I'm gonna work on all this music that I've been putting off for so long. And then like after like 3 weeks, I was like, oh wow, this is just reality now. I think I have to like try and get my life in order also.
Yeah, right. Get the balance back. I don't think you're alone. I think that's, I've read some articles. It's pretty consistent. Yeah. So I want to point out before we begin that Cole DeGenova's album, Really Human, released on April 24th at Ropeadope. A really delightful set of music. And we'll let people know where you can stream it. Actually, you can stream it everywhere. And but also you can support directly by going to Bandcamp, especially on May 1st, where Bandcamp is waiving their revenue share. We're doing some really special things, it's a great way for people to support. So I want to start with how you came to music. Like, I love to hear the backstories. Where was it? In the house?
It was definitely in the house. My parents met in a band. They're both musicians, and they were practicing. They would have band practice in our basement once a week. You know, the first like 5 or 6 years of my life, and I just took to it. I just wanted to be like my parents, and I started taking piano lessons when I was 4, and I was singing along with my mom to all their like promo videos, and then I started.
What kind of band?
It was like we call them jobbing bands in Chicago, just like corporate gigs, weddings. That's how they were making their money for a while. But my dad also, he's a sax player, and he was playing in some blues bands around Chicago, and my mom had some more like singer-songwriter type projects too. But yeah, the breadwinner was the corporate band.
Well, it's interesting to touch on that, and maybe we can come back to it a little bit later. I don't think a lot of people know what the life of a professional working musician is like, and all the different gigs that you have to do to keep things going. And of course, that's going to be a topic of conversation in the world over the next year, persistently. So piano was first, huh?
Yep. I think it was just, we had one in the basement, and I used to just bang on it. And my parents were like, well, this is a good instrument to start on. He can grow from there, but I stuck with it, and that's been my main source of income since I was a teenager.
Wow. Great. When did you start to write?
Not too much longer after that. I was probably like 7 or 8. I think I made my first little tape recording of some like cheesy little pop songs that I was coming up with. I really loved Michael Jackson at the time, so I think I was trying to make whatever sounded like Michael Jackson, even if it was in a tape recorder.
Yeah, I did want to ask you about your influences. Like, I mean, so you mentioned Michael. Like, can you rattle off a top 5 of your major influences?
Yes.
The long-term ones. Yeah.
Right. Started with Michael, and then the Beatles, and then I eventually dug more into Stevie Wonder, and then Miles Davis was a big one, especially because I played jazz piano also. And then, you know, a lot of the neo soul music that was coming out when I was in like junior high school, like D'Angelo, Erykah Badu, The Roots, that whole sound was a huge influence.
Place that. That's like mid 90s, late 90s kind of thing?
Yeah.
A little further?
2000. I started high school in 2001, so we were still listening to all that stuff.
It's a really interesting movement because, I mean, there are some people who are super famous, most of the people that you reference and that are involved in that neo soul thing, and it's spreads far and wide too. It's not like focused on a given city, although there are some predominant cities, right?
Philly, for sure.
Philadelphia, yeah, but Atlanta, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
London,
Chicago,
yeah, and everybody's just kind of like famous enough,
right?
You know, but it's not like smash pop.
Respected. They have great careers touring, and yeah, I think that's kind of the dream. It's like you don't want to be Justin Bieber famous, but famous enough to do what you want to be doing and make money at it.
There you go. And that again will speak to the, you know, gig economy as well. You know, I have a particular theory. Actually, most of my time in this business is spent trying to, and I'll reference this right now, flatten the curve, but not the flatten the curve that we've heard about in the last couple months, but the flatten the curve of like the distance between the number one, the A-list, the revenue that they earn, and the, you know, person hustling around to make $50 to $100 a day, because while I see certain talents that are phenomenal, you know, and I mean James Brown phenomenal, right, or Ray Charles phenomenal, right, Michael Jackson. There's not, to me, the same kind of difference between the talent and the quality of playing, and even the vibe and the feel between some of the $100 gig people and the multimillionaires. So, yeah. So you performed, or tell me about the different bands that you were in, because a couple that you're on a couple of Ropeadope records, I assume, right?
No. Well,
Naughty Professor?
I don't know if the Naughty Professor record I was on was the one that was on Ropeadope. It might have been the one right after.
Okay, gotcha.
I've done a lot with Naughty Professor, and I'm like, you know, BFFs with the whole Sidewalk Chalk crew. So we've all done a lot of different things together over the years, and yeah.
Both of these bands really interest me, and your music interests me in this particular light, and that is, you're kind of like young guns in a way, with a different vibe. And I think that as I was preparing for this, I was thinking about it. It's like there was a point at which in history, and maybe that went on for a long time, but you really, to show that you were an accomplished musician, you had to display your chops.
Yeah.
Like when in composing and playing and performing, you had to prove that you were a musician of high pedigree.
Yeah.
In the performing, but you guys all just have a vibe, and you're not overworking that. Like,
yeah.
What do you think that is?
I don't know. I do. It's funny you mention that, because I like, at least with my solo original music, I try and hold back a lot of chops purposefully. I think the chops aspect is great, and it's important for a live setting. But I think to really pull people into the music, it's, you know, there's got to be good hooks, good harmony, good vibe, like you said. And I think like the chops can sometimes take you away from that. And that's coming from someone I've been studying piano since I was 4, and I, used to play Rachmaninoff and studied jazz for years. And it's like, I could go really choppy, and I try to prevent that from happening sometimes. But at a show, chops galore.
Oh, sure. Yeah. There's also a contrast. Is there, and this is more of a question. I don't want to make it a statement. In the composition, right? I mean, these are songs.
Yeah.
I remember Terrace Martin just going nuts one time, just going like, jazz is great, Lewis, but people need songs.
You do. I need songs. I feel like we definitely all need songs. And I think that's something that, being a trained musician and going to jazz school, I went to Berklee, and like being in those environments, you kind of, I don't know, you start to think that like you said before, like sort of showing off your chops or your abilities as a musician is what's going to make you great. And you kind of lose sight of why did you get into music in the first place? Because there were great songs, songs that made you feel good or made you feel a certain way, or songs you'd sing along to with your friends. So yeah, it was like when I left Berklee, the first thing I did was hit up some of my friends who weren't working musicians, and I was like, what are the bands that you're listening to right now? And they were all people that I loved, but I hadn't heard at all while I was at school, because everyone was focused on other side of the music. So I think it's important to keep the wide ears.
Well, jazz has a tendency to sort of wall itself off in that way, right? I can see it from Berklee, and I can see it. And Christian Scott references. He had an interesting statement where he said, "There are I won't paraphrase him properly, but I'll do my best. There are a good number of people who believe that the best jazz has already been played." Mm-hmm. And it seems like the schools and when it comes to chops, it's all about copying a little bit the past, maybe making it your own, but still sort of repeating the golden days of jazz, right?
Yeah, totally. And I think that's what made Miles Davis so important to me when I was first discovering music, was because he was a jazz musician, but also someone who was like militant about keeping his music moving forward and not getting stuck doing one thing and what everyone else was doing. I
lived through that. I was able to, I grew up in the 70s, pre-legal FM, right? I was listening to radio, and you could hear Led Zeppelin and the Carpenters, and maybe not country music until Leonard Skinner came around, or or a little bit with the Allman Brothers, like that little bit of a Southern sound. But you didn't really hear much jazz. And then all of a sudden it was Miles Davis, and just programmed in the same place. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. I would kill to be able to hear some like Bitches Brew on the radio.
Right. I think Kind of Blue was probably first. I think the long format was that, if you were listening late night, you'd get it.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to me because, there was a moment when the songs were songs enough to be on radio. And I mean, I might have made my way eventually to jazz, but not as quickly.
Yeah.
Not at the age of 17 or 16. I was right in it.
Oh.
So Really Human. Do you have a favorite song?
Yeah, that's hard. I guess I probably because I've been working on it for a few years, I think I naturally tend to like the newer things in general, because you always think like the thing you're working on right now is the best thing you've ever done. But that track you were playing, The Lucky Few, I do really like. It's also probably one of probably the first song I ever recorded and released that I did all all by myself, except for Rico's rap verse, but did it all at home. You know, was working out some, you know, my production chops. So I'm proud of it in that regard, that it came out as good as it did.
We have a match there. That's I'll definitely call that my favorite. And I don't, you know, it's interesting to say favorites, right? So sometimes, I mean, We Broke is you know, my favorite today, right? Or right out of the gate. But I can see that The Lucky Few is going to be in playlist rotation for me for a long, long time. I like the bod. I guess you're off the road for a while. Do you have any words of advice to people about live music and what's going to happen here?
I was holding out for like a few shows at the end of May, and I still haven't gotten the final word on that. But I'm not holding out. So we'll see. I don't know. At this point, I'm going to start trying to book stuff for like September and keep my fingers crossed.
I saw a tweet from Chuck D today, and he said, everybody get your database together of smaller clubs of 10 to 50 people now.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's the way things are going to pan out.
Those are the best. Those are my favorite spots to play.
Those are my favorite spots to go. Yeah. I did the stadium thing before. I do wonder what's going to happen. I don't know if you want to share anything as we wrap up with fans, but you know, anything you want to say about your music that isn't evident or in the music.
I don't know. I think as crazy as the times are, trying to be as inspired as possible. I'm working on some new stuff. I'm also like having fun getting weirder and exploring production in new ways for me. And I think there's going to be a lot of cool stuff coming up in the next year. Maybe not live, but you know, recorded music, that is.
Yeah, we have somebody working on a 7 continent.
Oh, that's my dog.
There you go. 7 composers on 7 continents, and they're passing tracks around. Their own songs, and everyone's performing on the other person's song, and they're going to put together an entire compilation. So it's stunning to me, you know, how creative all you cats are. You know, it's like a challenge just puts more creativity into the mix.
It's true. Yeah. True. Even just learning all of this new technology has been a fun, creative challenge.
Yeah, same here. Same here. Well, Cole DeGenova, Really Human, came out on April 24th. It's available on all streaming services. Grab those tracks, hit the like button, add to library, and then the computer algorithm will deliver you even more great music. And if you're of the mind to get CDs, head to coledegenova.bandcamp.com.
Vinyls too. There will be vinyls.
And vinyl, as soon as the pressing plant opens the doors. Yes. I think you're the first order out the door. Is that what you said? Yeah.
What they said.
So looking forward to that. Cole, thank you so much for doing what you do, for making beautiful music, and, you know, stand strong, stay healthy.
Too.
See you soon.
All right. Cheers.
They tell you you're too black. They tell you you're too